Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's our favorite time of the week, taking a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves. Let's check them out. All right, no new exclusives to reveal this week, but we are gonna this week, but we are gonna start with a sprint run. And it's not even a Ken Onion, so we can't like connect the leak joke to that. But anyway, it is a Dmitry Sinkovich. It is a zero tolerance. This is the 460 RDBW. And the price on this comes in at $240. And very striking red and black carbon fiber front handle there. Very, very nice looking. Blade itself is 3 1/4 inches long. You've got that very dramatic upswept trailing point on this design. 20 CV steel with a black washed finish and a high flat grind on this knife. That black washed finish from the blade carries through to the titanium frame with the frame lock on the back. Lock bar insert right there, as you can see. I've always appreciated how this knife really folds up into itself. All folders do that, but for such a, it's always cool when you've got such a dramatic shape when opened, the way it becomes more tidy when things are closed up and ready for your pocket. But you did see, we've got a ball bearing pivot here, the KVT ball bearings that Kershaw uses, Kershaw and ZT, of course, sister companies. Very snappy action on that, no assist spring to kind of get in the way of the closing action. It's just very nice and very cool looking, and it is a sprint run as mentioned, so don't wait too long. We've also got a new version of the Emerson 640 from ZT. This one coming in about $280 right now. And rather than the original, which was a much lighter looking knife with its gray titanium, green carbon fiber, and I think it was a satin or stonewash blade, but an uncoated blade nonetheless. This is kind of blacked out with just enough contrast in the carbon fiber front scales there to keep it from being just a hole, visual hole, so to speak. You've got something nice there to look at without being too much, without being too ostentatious overall. Very nice knife. 3 3/4 inch blade, 20 CV again. Now, even though this is an Emerson design, you don't have the Emerson Wave pocket deployer on this knife, but you do have the spine-mounted thumb disc, which is ambidextrous, and also a bit of an Emerson signature piece of gear right there. And the rest of the knife still has kind of that Emerson tactical DNA built in. You've got a neutrally shaped handle, so all kinds of hand sizes will work, but you've got jimping in just the right places and pretty broad, but pretty effective jimping, especially right there on the index finger spot to give you a lot of, anti-skid properties if you're using the tip of this knife aggressively. But you don't have a super aggressive finger guard on this. In fact, I'd say no finger guard on this knife, making it perhaps a little bit more suited to just everyday carry, tactical considerations, so to speak. Very solid knife though, overall. Standard 3-screw pocket clip. It is reversible. You've got the frame lock there underneath the carbon fiber onlays, and you've got really nice flipping action. Interestingly, and appreciably, or something to be appreciated for folks who like a kind of hard use knife without having to worry about dust getting into the pivot so much as you might with bearings. This is one of the few ZT knives that does not use a ball bearing pivot. So you've got a little more stability, a little bit less concern for using it in dirty conditions. Not quite as friction-free of an opening action as you get from a ball bearing pivot, but as you can see, still flicks open quite nicely. Next up, we've got another American-made knife. All three of these so far have been. This is the Jonathan McNees Performance Machined Mac 2. Very cool little knife, and I say little, it's a 3-inch bladed blade here on this design, and yet it is a very stout feeling small knife. I can get just barely all 4 of my fingers onto this handle. I'm choked up right close to the edge to do so, but I can choke back, hang my pinky finger off of that to get a little more distance. But then when you need the Gorilla Grip, it's still there. titanium frame lock with a very fine lock bar cut out there. Always love how that looks. CTS XHP blade steel, a little bit on the thicker side, and you've got kind of a flat saber grind right here. Just a very stout little thing. That means you can take it very easily with you in most places. You know, check your local laws, of course, but no matter what your gear requirements are, maybe you don't want or can't take up a ton of space, doesn't mean you have to sacrifice strength and solidity, because you get it with this knife. $465, you're gonna pay for the solidity and the American-made construction in this case. Two different titanium finishes. This is the stone washed. We've also got, I think, a bronze titanium finish as well, if you want a little bit of subtle color going on. And this is a thumb stud only knife with ball bearings in the pivot. Flicks open pretty nicely. Pocket clip is kind of a standard bent titanium clip there on the one side, non-reversible, but again, it's a frame lock, which is right side biased anyway. So overall, super solid. Feels very, very good. This next knife is another that I kind of qualify as that, compact dimensions, yet very strong feeling build, very strong feeling construction. The MKM Clap. Considerably more affordable than the McNees we just looked at. This is an Italian-made folder. New versions with the Jade G10 with or without a titanium bolster. The version without starts about $210, and you're about $245 if you want the bolstered version. Again, on this, we have a 3-inch blade. We've got M390 steel. Blade shape, kind of a harpoon spear point, compound flat grinds going on. And as you can see, this is a Bob Terzola design, of course. And the blade certainly tells you that, even if the logo wasn't there. The handles, as you can see, are fairly narrow from the side profile, but not super slim. There's a little bit of chunk to it, which gives it that character of being able to get all 4 of your fingers on that blade and really choke up and push down onto a heavier cut if needed. And the blade stock is gonna help with that as well, standing up to that type of use. You can see on the back here, we've got some nice details like the blue milled pocket clip and the blue backspacer to match, as well as the pivot collars to match as well. Kind of crowned surfaces on the liner lock, crowned spine as well as you go to the front. And for opening here, you have the flipper tab, which is actually a removable flipper tab, as you can see right there. So if you're in an area where, for instance, Germany is a perfect example, I think, where you can have a one-hand opening blade and you can have a locking blade, but you can't have those two features together on the same knife. So this will get you, theoretically anyway, a 2-hand opening locking knife, or when you go somewhere else, you can pop that flipper tab back on and be good to go. But most of us folks here in the States anyway, but probably most folks worldwide are probably just gonna leave that on, which is great because it flips awesome on the ball bearings there, feels super solid in the hand, and is just a useful drop point blade with a little bit extra to keep things visually interesting. Next up, we've got a new Spyderco, the Smallfly 2 Balisong. Comes in about $231, made in the USA as well. We've only had one non-US knife so far this week. Interesting, or kind of a conundrum, this particular Bally, I would say, because it's probably, and take this with a huge grain of salt, because I'm not personally, I have virtually no skill at Bally flipping. I've got like one move. I can do my open and close, and I can certainly do my move with this particular knife, but it feels a little bit different from most of what I've experienced in the types of Balisongs that are highly sought after by the flipper crowd, by the folks who love to just get intricate and have so much fun with this style of play, basically. This feels more to me like an actual EDC first Balisong, designed first as an option for a knife you might actually carry and use day to day. First off, the blade is a little bit smaller than most. We're like just under 3.4 inches. It's also got a very atypical blade shape for a Balisong. We've got a typical Spyderco blade shape, essentially. Drop point here with a full flat grind. Very useful geometry for a daily cutter. Also, we've got a wire pocket clip, making it easy to carry. And we've also got a spring-loaded latch here. So when you pull that out of your pocket, you can squeeze the handle, and that pops right free. And then do your open, and you're ready to cut. Now, as you can see there, there's a good deal of space between the handles when you're in the open position, so you're not really going to be able to lock the handle in the open position with the latch there. But this is still, you know, typically anyway, a very safe style of knife if you're considering to use it for an actual carry, because it's very, very unlikely, very highly improbable that the blade will be able to fold closed on your fingers while you're using it. So that is certainly an advantage of a Bally for a daily carry. And this one would be, out of the currently available production stuff, this would be pretty much near the top of the list for consideration if I were looking for this myself. All right, next we have a new fixed blade. Actually, we've got a lot of fixed blades. Oh, ooh, almost all fixed blades towards the end of this video now.
Here we go.
I'll try to keep it brief. But we gotta dive into it. Anyway. Prometheus Design Works. This is the OS3 fixed blade. And it looks an awful lot like a boot knife. However, it comes with a very high quality leather belt sheath. I'll start with the sheath this time. So if you were looking to carry this as kind of a boot knife carry, you will need a custom sheath to be made for this knife. But if not, if you're carrying this on the belt, this thing is super, super nice. Very nicely done edges, nice thick leather, holds it there quite nicely. You've got a retention strap on the front there. And you've even got the options for some bracing here on the side. As you can see, you could thread some things through there, whether it's some other kind of attachment to a pack or something like that, or perhaps a thigh strap or something like that. It doesn't dangle down that far that you might need that. And the main loop is going to be a bit in the way if you were doing that. But you do have that available to you if you needed it for some additional whatevers, so to speak. But onto the knife itself, it's very cool. 4-inch blade, S35 VN spear point blade, pretty much full flat grind. You can see just a hint of the top of the grind line there, but it's approaching the spine and just kind of disappears. So we're going to call that a full flat grind. Swedge on there near the tip. Very cool. Feels good in a full gorilla grip. If you need to use this as a utility knife, you could certainly do it. If you're using it as a box opener, it feels very precise. You can definitely get some very, very precise work done with it. I like the pinch grip that you can do thanks to the scallop there on the G10. Now, one of the interesting things you'll see about this handle is it's not technically a full tang knife. As you can see, we've got a G10 spacer, two actually. You've got a thin layer of an OD green G10 attached to each side of the black G10 here. But it is a full length tang, and it isn't really gonna taper too much either, because as you can see, we've got the giant holes. Just thinking there might be like a more technical term for matter relief spaces.
Cavities.
No, if it goes completely through something, I don't think you can call it a cavity anymore.
Just a full-length cavity.
Tactical pass-throughs.
Oh, that's a thing now.
Dang it. So obviously it's not really going to be a rat tail tang. It is going to be a full width tang, or at least full width to the blade height itself, with those tactical pass-throughs going on there. But in any case, I like the dimensions of this knife. I mean, the blade with the 4-inch length there is a ton of usable edge and just enough handle. Not over the top, just enough to be able to use that effectively without adding too much bulk overall. I kind of want to EDC this knife, I gotta be honest. But price on this comes in $239, just super solid overall. Super solid design and construction. Next, we've got a couple of new Tops knives, made in the USA, of course. The Muley series. We've got the Muley Skinner and the Muley Saw right here, both coming in about $183. And I'll start with the fixed blade. Why not? I'll start with the Skinner here. Got a straight backed profile, plenty of belly. These are going to be made with 154 cm stainless as opposed to Tops's usual 1095. We've got a high flat grind on this blade and plenty of belly. I don't know if I mentioned that yet already, but going to be a great slicer. Great camp knife in addition to its obvious hunting pedigree. Handles, G10. We've got a tan and black with some thick orange liners there, kind of leaning into the outdoorsman vibe. Now, what's nice about this handle is it has the precision you're going to need for, a hunting and skinning scenario, but this also doesn't feel too bad as just a more general purpose knife, camp knife, hiking knife, that sort of thing. I was a little bit worried about how this first peak on the behind the index finger groove might impact the grip, but because the knife or the handle is so short, it's not too wide, it doesn't get in the way too much. When you're really gripping this knife, you're getting the precision from the first two fingers, but you're getting the solid grip from the back two. So really, yeah, I can feel it with my fingertip, but it's not really getting in the way. So that's kind of a neat trick. I don't know whether they intended that or not, but it's pretty cool. The sheaths for both of these units is made from Kydex. In typical Tops fashion, they are super high quality. You've got a nice push off here for your thumb, built into the, or baked into the design. We can actually pretty much say baked in since it's a heat formed process. Pushes off really nicely. Your hand is pretty much right on the grip. Your index finger can't quite get in there from the sheathed position, but you can be right over it and you're not really having to readjust your grip so much when you pull the knife. So it's ready to go. You've got a Kydex belt loop here, and let me check to see if you could also use a tech lock or similar attachment if you want to mix things up a little bit. Pardon me while I fumble that. Let's see. Nope. What about a small? It looks like it's not actually quite intended for a small tech lock, but it's close enough you could probably make it work if you wanted to. So that's the sheath. The saw is not really a wood saw design. This is more of a bone saw type of thing, as you can see, but you've also got a skinning hook, a gut hook there at the tip, which should be pretty cool. 154 cm again. Oh, I didn't mention blade length on either of these. Just about 4.5, just under on the Muley Skinner, and the saw blade here comes in at just under 5, like 4 7/8, or right thereabouts. Super solid feeling tools. I think they're very cool, and always like getting to show a new Tops on these episodes. What about some new Condor, shall we? So this is actually kind of an extension or a spin-off of the Jason Breeden designed Mountain Pass series. Now we have the Tactical Pass series, and this is the Chute knife. I guess it's his kind of take on a paratrooper's style of fixed blade, perhaps. I'm guessing by the name. Comes in 119. We've got a micarta handle with red liners, natural micarta there. Really cool looking, pretty good feeling in the hand too. 440C on the blade, 5.5 inches, saber height flat grind, and a very aggressive swedge going on. It's a pretty good design overall, apart from any kind of quote unquote tactical considerations. I think this would make a fine survival knife design and general purpose fixed blade. Overall fit and finish is not to the same level you would expect from something like the Tops right here, of course, but it feels solidly built. I definitely give it that. The sheaths on these Tactical Pass tools, not all of them are knives here, are these very high quality, thick brown leather right here. And we've got a couple of different things going on here on the back. You've got an additional retention loop right here. Actually, I wouldn't call it retention for so much carry, but you could stash something like a fire steel or a sharpener, like a rod style sharpener in here. As long as you're comfortable with how you can secure it in there, there's just enough space to do that sort of thing with that loop. Very, very solidly built sheath. That's always been a Condor strong suit in my opinion. Next up in the series, we've got the Tactical Pass EDC Push Dagger. Comes in 102. About, we say a 4-inch 440C blade, but that doesn't look quite 4 inches. I know this PDW is 4 inches here. So yeah, if we measure from tip to handle scale, I guess it is about 4 inches there, but you've got considerably less edge to work with because of the push knife styling going on. But a fairly EDC friendly blade shape, even if this is not the most EDC friendly blade or knife style. But the blade itself will do your EDC things. You're just gonna have to figure out some different grips to use this with. Same style of construction. You've got the natural micarta with red G10 liners. You've got an sheath right here. Nice thick leather. You've got a strap designed to go over the top of the the handle there. And it's a symmetrical sheath design. So as you can see, the is symmetrical. So you can carry it either side, no problem, and still insert the knife the way you want to. Next up in the series, we've got the Tactical P.A.S.S Hawk Axe. Comes in at $170 right now, with a 1075 high carbon head. So more toughness than the stainless that you're getting on the fixed blades, which is going to be appreciated since you're going to be hitting things more aggressively with a tomahawk style of thing. Still, we've got a nice micarta handle. It's got the corners kind of octagonalized there, as you can see. Still feels pretty decent. Feels a bit more like a throwing design for the handle anyway, as opposed to a general purpose type of thing. But then a tomahawk, of course, always rides the line between general purpose and tactical uses, hence Tactical P.A.S.S. But in any case, 1075, you can see there where the tang ends. The halves of the micarta are milled out and bolted together, actually very, very precisely. I am impressed with the seamage they've been able to eliminate right there. Feels very, very solid. As far as the head itself, you've got a pretty decent amount of reach or leading out from the leading edge of the handle. And you could use this in some little bushcrafty grips if you're the type of person who is attracted to tomahawk carry for that type of use. You can even though it's a narrow little section, you might even be able to do some hammering with the back of that head right there. But overall, just again, super solid feeling construction overall. There is a mask for the front of the edge and a nice belt hanger to take it with you as well. Next up, we've got the Darklore. This is a Joe Flowers design, of course. This version comes in at $97 and some change right now. Kind of an expansion of the Woodlore knife the Bushlore from Condor's lineup. Woodlore is the Allen wood knife, but anyway. Very cool. We've got a black paper micarta handle here with a bit of a high polish, not super gloss, but pretty well refined, and some thin white liners there. Coated blade, 1095 carbon steel on this one with the Scandi grind, and a very comfortable feel in that hand. The sheath is quite nicely done. It is Kydex, so this is kind of the the tactical Bushlore. Essentially, it was the idea behind it. You've got a nylon strap or nylon thing here that facilitates the belt loop. And one thing you can do if you don't want to carry it that way, unfortunately the hole spacing is not Tech-Lock compatible, but you can unsnap this and you've got that flap here, which is essentially independent from the loop itself. You're gonna have to unscrew the hardware here, but it looks to me like you could remove this loop and put this wrapping back on it, in which case you will have a knife that can be mounted horizontally on your belt and quick mounted too, since you've got the snap release. That's pretty cool. Next up, we've got the Sport Zero, another Jason Breeden design here. And Zero is spelled X.E.R.O.
Kids these days.
The Sport Zero Campfire, I should say specifically. 105 for this, and this is a version of this series that I've been waiting to come in. I really like this design. 4.3 inch blade, Sandvik's 14C28N. I'm a big fan of that steel. You've got a full flat ground drop point profile that is just going to be oh so useful for camping, some food prep, daily utility perhaps, even some last ditch tactical purposes, even though you don't have much of a finger guard there. Very cool. Red micarta handles, which are also very cool. Agile handling, which I like. It's going to be a great knife for if you're spending time around the water too, since that 14C28N is still nice and tough, like some of the carbon steels they use, but also, of course, stainless. The sheath will also be better for wet work, so to speak, since it is Kydex and not leather. Clicks in there. You've got a very robust drop loop system here, some Molly compatibility, and because you've got a slot in addition to the rivet here, you could even, it looks like, do some tech lock mounting with this particular sheath if you wanted. All right, last but not least, for Condor this week, we have the Impossible Machete. I'm not sure why they called it that, but I really am digging the vibes of this in particular. My favorite Condor this week, for sure. 131 and some change. You've got about an 11-inch blade, 1075 carbon, and this thing looks and feels properly apocalyptic. I mean, you've got just rustic attitude going on right here, and I love it. Rustic finish on the sides of the blade, convex geometry for the edge itself. Not super thick on the blade itself. This looks about, just shy of 5/32 maybe. And it's a good, I think a good compromise between lightness, speed, and still having some semblance of chopping power in it. Not a super aggressive chopper, but still pretty good. Leather wrapped handle, bit of a smooth texture there. I might roughen that up a little bit myself personally, and a leather thong there at the back. I mean, Thomas, you knew I was gonna love this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so cool. Great survival machete with some attitude, great sheath to go along with it. As you can see, it is full grain leather there as well. Drop loop, thigh strap to keep it from banging around as you traverse. I just love this thing. It would look just as home in like an urban garage as, you know, out in the wilds too. Very, very survival, very apocalypse. And feels good. Nice and balanced, very nice. Last but not least for the video, we have a multi-tool from Gerber. Actually, is this technically a multi-tool if it doesn't have a bottle opener?
The debate rages on.
It says it has a bottle opener. It has a bottle opener. Look, there you go. Right there.
Sneaky.
It's a hidden bottle opener. This is, first and foremost, a pry tool. This is called the Lockdown Slim Pry Multifunction Folding Knife. It's the Lockdown Slim in any case. $37 for these. Got a deep carry pocket clip, a very robust feeling pry bar there at the back. I mean, this whole thing is made out of aluminum, but it feels super strong. You can get in under a nail, since you've got a nail puller there, and the leverage I feel like you're going to be able to exert with this thing feels pretty substantial. As a bonus, you've got a knife blade. I'm sure it's a very, it's going to be a very entry-level steel. They don't even have it listed. But this is more of a backup blade in my opinion, so take that as you will. It is locking, however. You've got that liner lock there. A very broad thumb, not a stud, but a thumb bar for opening that very close to disappears in the handle, but makes it easy enough to open. Might get in the way of sharpening just a little bit. The other side, however, is a nice robust pair of scissors, and it does feel quite robust. The spring tension there is quite nice. You've got a strong looking set of jaws for something this size, mind you. That I'm a big fan of right there. And it also has a liner lock to keep it open. Actually, it's a little easier to open this with the little tab down there at the back rather than the thumb cutout, but options are always good. You can open either way. A couple colors of that available too. There is a, I think a gray or it might be a green version. Actually, it is looks like a gray version that we have, and a bronze version as well. There might be more, but that's all I see right now. But anyway, that is all I've got for you folks this week. Let me know what you thought down in the comments, and to get your hands on any of them, check out the links that are in the description that'll take you to KnifeCenter.com. While you're over there, don't forget about our Knife Rewards program, because if you're gonna be buying one of these knives today, you might as well earn some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera, and we're signing off. See you next time.